Doctors warning why walking too much after 70 can accelerate aging and what to do instead. Most people believe that walking more is the key to staying healthy after 70. After all, it's a simple, low-impact exercise that keeps you moving. But what if I told you that doctors are now warning against walking too much? Yes, you heard that right. While walking is a great way to stay active, if it's your only form of exercise, you could be making a mistake that actually accelerates aging rather than slowing it down. The truth is, as you age, your body needs more than just walking to stay strong, maintain balance, and protect your joints. Relying too much on walking while ignoring other essential forms of movement can actually lead to muscle loss, joint strain, and even a higher risk of falls. That's why experts now say that after 70, you should walk less and focus on these 5 key areas instead, because these are the real secrets to maintaining strength, energy, and independence well into your later years. In this video, we're going to break down 5 essential types of exercise that seniors should prioritize. These simple changes can improve your mobility, protect your bones, and even add years to your life. And be sure to stick with me until the end, because the last one is something almost no one talks about, yet it plays a major role in your longevity. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss important health updates. If you find this video helpful, please type 1 in the comments to let me know. Now, let's get started. 1. Strength training. Strength does not come from physical capacity. It comes from an indomitable will. These words from Mahatma Gandhi ring true in ways many of us don't realize until life forces us to confront our own limitations. And yet, in the world we live in today, too many people mistake ease for wisdom and convenience for progress. The modern world promises comfort at every turn, but in exchange, we surrender something invaluable: our resilience. Strength is not merely a function of the body, it is the foundation of the soul. I once knew a man named Gerald, a proud World War II veteran who lived by the belief that a man should never let his body grow weaker than his spirit. Well into his 80s, Gerald still worked on his land, fixing fences, tending to his vegetable garden, and refusing to let his muscles waste away. But the world around him was changing. The younger generation no longer saw physical labor as a virtue. They preferred the quick path, the easy road. Machines did their lifting, devices did their thinking, and comfort became king. One afternoon, Gerald's grandson Mike came over for a visit. Mike was a good young man, but like so many his age, he had grown up in a world where struggles were optional. He laughed when he saw his grandfather carrying a heavy bag of soil across the yard. "Grandpa, you don't have to do that. Why don't you just hire someone? Or better yet, let me order some raised garden beds online so you won't have to bend down." Gerald paused, setting the bag down, wiping his hands on his worn-out jeans. "Son, let me tell you something about strength," he said. "When I was your age, we didn't have a choice. We had to be strong, not just for ourselves, but for others. Strength wasn't about looking good or lifting weights in a gym. It was about carrying your own burden. It was about being reliable. If you needed to fix something, you learned how. If you needed to move something, you used your hands, your back, and your will. Strength isn't just about muscle, it's about responsibility." Mike sighed, shaking his head. "But isn't life about making things easier?" Gerald chuckled. "That's what they want you to believe. But tell me this, what happens when the power goes out? When do the machines stop working? When you have no choice but to rely on yourself? Do you have the strength to stand on your own 2 feet? That conversation stuck with Mike, and months later, when he found himself struggling to carry his own luggage up a flight of stairs, he finally understood what his grandfather had meant. He had let himself grow weak, not just in body but in spirit. He had never challenged himself, never built the kind of strength that mattered. And suddenly he felt ashamed. There's a reason why ancient wisdom speaks of strength not just as a physical attribute but as a principle of life. The philosopher Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Strength in its truest form is about mastery over our bodies, our choices, and our very lives. The moment we stop challenging ourselves, we begin to fade. And so I ask you, as someone who has lived through generations of change, do you see this happening in our world today? Have we traded resilience for convenience? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share your experiences in the comments below. After all, wisdom grows when it is shared. 2. Balance and stability. Confucius once said, The green reed that bends in the wind is stronger than the mighty oak that breaks in a storm. Balance is not just about standing upright. It is about adapting, adjusting, and knowing when to yield. I have seen too many people fall, not just physically but in life itself, because they refused to recognize the slow, subtle ways in which they were losing their stability. My old friend Richard was one of them. He had always prided himself on his independence. At 76, he walked every day, convinced that his daily strolls kept him strong. "I have never fallen in my life," he told me once, as if that were enough to ensure he never would. Then one afternoon, while stepping off a curb, his foot landed just a little off, and in an instant, he lost control. His world tilted, his knees buckled, and before he could react, he was on the ground. His hip was fractured, his confidence was shattered. That fall changed him. He started walking less, afraid that it might happen again. He turned down invitations to outings. He withdrew, becoming a shadow of the man I once knew. And that is when I realized something important. It was not the fall that had truly hurt him. It was the loss of trust in his own body, the fear that had settled in his mind like a slow poison. I told him about something my grandfather used to say. A man who stops trusting his legs will soon stop using them, and a man who stops using his legs will one day lose them. I begged him to try again, to strengthen what had weakened, to regain what he had lost. He hesitated at first, but I convinced him to try balance exercises, standing on one foot near the kitchen counter, walking in a straight line, shifting his weight from side to side. At first it frustrated him, his pride resisted it, but slowly he began to regain his stability. The next time he walked outside, he felt steady again. He stood taller. He was not the same man who had fallen. He was a man who had learned how to stand again. In life, it is not the great falls that break us, but the small imbalances we ignore. A tiny shift in footing, a gradual loss of confidence, a moment of hesitation. These are the things that determine whether we stand strong or collapse under our own weight. And this does not just apply to our bodies. Look around. Do you see how many people have lost their balance in life? They stand firm in their beliefs, refusing to bend, only to break when the winds of change come. Others are too afraid to step forward, too unsteady to trust their own footing. Balance is everything, not just in movement but in how we think, how we adapt, and how we live. So tell me, have you ever felt yourself losing balance, whether in body or in spirit? And if so, how did you find your way back? Share your thoughts in the comments. I would love to hear your story. 3. Flexibility and mobility. The great philosopher Lao Tzu once said, "Water is fluid, soft and yielding, but water will wear away rock which is rigid and cannot yield. What is soft is strong." I have lived long enough to know this is true. Rigidity, in both the body and the mind, is what truly weakens us. I once had a friend named Henry. He was a strong man in his younger years, a steel worker who spent decades shaping metal with his hands. But as he aged, he resisted change. He believed that strength was all that mattered, that if he just kept moving he would never slow down. But strength without flexibility is an illusion. It was in his 70s that he first noticed the stiffness. He could not turn his neck as easily when reversing his car. He had to use his hands to help him get up from a chair. Then, one winter morning, he bent down to tie his shoe and felt a sharp pain shoot through his back. It was not just a passing ache. His body had been warning him for years, and now, it had finally had enough. He ended up in physical therapy, frustrated and humiliated. "I never thought this would happen to me," he admitted one day, shaking his head. His therapist, a young woman wise beyond her years, smiled at him and said, "You did not lose your mobility in one day, Henry. You lost it in small moments. Each time you chose not to stretch, each time you ignored the stiffness. But the good news is, you can get it back the same way. One small moment at a time." And so he started. At first it was just gentle neck rotations in the morning. Then knee-to-chest stretches before bed, a bit of light yoga which he swore he would never do but soon came to enjoy. Slowly his body began to move again, his pain eased, and most importantly he felt free once more. There is a lesson in this, not just for our bodies but for how we live. How many people do you know who have become rigid with age? Not just in their joints but in their minds. They hold on to old beliefs, refusing to bend, unwilling to see the world changing around them. And like Henry, they do not notice how stiff they have become until life forces them to. Flexibility is not just about avoiding pain. It is about maintaining freedom. the freedom to move, to change, to grow, and that is something we should never give up. So tell me, have you ever caught yourself resisting change? In your body, your mind, or your life? How did you overcome it? Share your story in the comments. I would love to hear how you keep yourself moving forward. 4. Core and posture. The great Greek philosopher Aristotle once said, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit." That truth applies to many things in life, but especially to how we carry ourselves, our posture, our strength, our ability to stand tall. I once knew a man named Walter, a proud veteran who walked with his shoulders back and his chest high, even well into his 70s. But over the years, life began to wear him down. It started with small things: slouching in his chair, shifting his weight when he stood for too long, leaning forward while reading. He did not notice how much he was changing, until one day his granddaughter snapped a photo of him at a family gathering. When he saw the picture, he barely recognized himself. His shoulders had rounded forward, his back curved, and his neck craned downward. He looked tired, smaller somehow, weaker than he ever imagined himself to be. He stared at that photo for a long time, as if seeing himself for the first time in years. Later that week, he visited his doctor about the stiffness in his back. "You are not in pain because of age," his doctor told him. "You are in pain because you have let your core grow weak. You do not stand the way you used to, and now your body is struggling to hold you up." Walter scoffed at first. He had never thought about his core in his younger years. Why should he start now? But the doctor explained how the muscles deep in his abdomen and lower back were the foundation of his posture, his strength, and his ability to move with ease. "The more you neglect them, the harder everything becomes," she said. So he took her advice. Every morning he started standing tall against a wall, trying to realign his spine. He practiced engaging his lower abs while sitting, noticing how much lighter his back felt when he did. He even started slow, controlled rotations to activate his deep muscles. Within weeks, the change was remarkable. He felt taller, stronger, and more balanced. The stiffness faded, and with it, something deeper, his sense of confidence, returned. He no longer felt small, hunched, or old. He felt like himself again. There is a lesson in this beyond just posture. When we lose sight of our foundation, whether it be in our health, our values, or our identity, we slowly collapse under the weight of time. But if we rebuild, if we strengthen what holds us up, we can stand tall again. So tell me, have you ever had a moment where you realized you had let something important slip away? How did you rebuild? I would love to hear your story in the comments. Your wisdom, like your posture, is something worth sharing. 5. Joint protection and low-impact exercises. The ancient Cherokee proverb says, "When you find yourself on a worn path, ask if it is still leading you where you need to go." It is easy to believe that what worked for us before will always work, but the body, much like life, requires adaptation. I learned this lesson through my old friend Bill. Bill had always been a walker. Every morning, rain or shine, he laced up his shoes and set off through the neighborhood, greeting folks along the way. He swore by it, convinced that as long as he kept moving, he would stay healthy. But time has a way of revealing our blind spots. He started noticing that after his walks, his knees ached a little more than before. His lower back felt stiff. He brushed it off at first. What was a little discomfort compared to the importance of staying active? But then one day, stepping off the curb, a sharp pain shot through his knee. It was sudden, jarring, and for the first time Bill felt afraid. His doctor told him the truth he did not want to hear. "Bill, your joints have carried you well, but they are telling you they need a break. Walking is great, but too much of it without balance can wear you down. It is time to find gentler ways to move forward." Bill resisted. He had walked all his life. It was what he knew. But then his doctor suggested something new: water exercises. "Swimming?" Bill scoffed. "I have not swum since I was a kid." "Exactly," his doctor smiled. "Maybe it is time to try something different." Reluctantly, Bill went to the pool. At first he felt foolish, moving slowly in the water. But then something happened. The pressure in his knees disappeared. He could move freely again. His joints, no longer burdened by his full weight, felt relief. Slowly he built strength. Then he tried cycling, feeling the gentle rotation of his legs without the pounding impact of the pavement. Then, much to his surprise, he joined a Tai Chi class at the community center. It was nothing like the fast-paced life he was used to, but he found something he had not expected: balance, ease, a new way of moving that did not leave him hurting. Bill still walked, but now he did it smarter, with less strain, and with a body that thanked him instead of punished him. There is wisdom in knowing when to change paths. Many of us resist new ways of doing things because they are unfamiliar, even when the old way is no longer serving us. So I ask you, have you ever held on to something simply because it was familiar, even when you knew it was time to let go? If so, how did you finally embrace change? Share your experience in the comments. I would love to hear your story. So as we wrap up, remember this: your body changes as you age. But that doesn't mean you have to slow down or live with pain. Protecting your joints isn't about stopping movement, it's about moving smarter. By incorporating low-impact exercises like swimming, cycling, and Tai Chi, you're not just reducing strain, you're ensuring that every step you take is one of strength, balance, and confidence. The choices you make today will determine how you feel tomorrow, so ask yourself, are you listening to your body? Have you noticed stiffness, aches, or discomfort creeping in? Maybe it's time to switch things up, to give your joints the care they deserve. I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever had to adjust your routine to protect your health? What worked best for you? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your experience could help someone else on their journey. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Your support allows us to continue creating content that helps you live stronger, healthier, and pain-free. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.